You're listening to Pop Culture Weekly with Kyle McMahon, presented by 92.9 Tom FM, an iHeart radio station.
Welcome to Pop Culture Weekly. It is episode 18. I'm Kyle McMahon, and of course, Pop Culture Weekly is your weekly dose of news and views, reviews, and all that good stuff on movies and music and all the pop culture stuff you love. This week is going to be a little bit of a different format. So I had the pleasure of talking to my good friend Monte Pittman, who is Madonna's guitarist and collaborator and has played with Prong, has a strong solo career by himself, has played with Adam Lambert, and he's got an amazing story to tell, and I'm really excited to tell it. So what actually happened was Monty and I we did our interview first over the phone, and then we just started talking pop culture. So I figured that will be the format for this episode. We'll just reverse it a little bit, and we'll go back to the format next episode. And then I talked to two gentlemen from the Everett Theater in Middletown, Delaware, and that is where part of the classic film Dead Poets Society was filmed, and it celebrates its 30th anniversary this year. So I talked to them about what they're doing to celebrate that classic movie and what they're doing to raise money so the theater can continue to exist. So enjoy the show. It's a little bit different than normal. We don't have our, segments the way they normally are. Don't have the fun sound effects this time, but, that's all right. You'll love the content anyway, I hope. So first up is my interview with Monte Pittman. Now I have singer, songwriter, producer, rock god, Monte Pittman. Hey, Monte.
Hey, dude, what's going on?
How are you? Welcome to Pop Culture Weekly.
Thanks for having me. I'm doing great. How about yourself?
I'm doing good. Thank you. I appreciate it. Let's start at the beginning. You are from Longview, Texas. You started playing guitar when you were 13?
Yes, I started playing guitar when I was 13.
And you formed the band My Remains, right?
Yeah, we were a local band there in Texas, and I played my first gig when I was 14.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And how did that go? How did you finagle that?
It was actually it was hard for us to book a show because we did a teen club and we weren't old enough to get in. But somehow they snuck me in. We didn't even have identification, so I don't know why that even needed to happen. But we were very honest. So
that's awesome. And My Remains still has some fans today.
That's a band that people still talk about to this day in that area. That's a really, really cool thing.
And then
it's almost become a legend because we don't have any music that's out there that you could listen to. You can find a few things on YouTube,
right,
that people have put up, but that's it.
Yeah, that is kind of funny. It's kind of like a folktale, but real.
Yeah, the Dallas Observer did a really cool story on us within the last couple of years about that. How the perception changes because people just hear the stories. Because we had such great times and such great shows, but it was before like what you have today, where you're going to film everything on your phone, and so people got to experience it, and they have the memories of it to talk about.
Right.
And they actually remember it. They were there, and they actually remember it. That's pretty miraculous.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Not many people can say that about their first band. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah. Usually, if you were at one of our shows, there may be a situation where you wouldn't remember it.
Okay, I was going to make a joke, but you made it.
I beat you to it.
Yeah. So then, how old were you when you moved to L.A.?
I was 23.
And then you began teaching lessons at Guitar Center, right?
Well, I didn't start teaching lessons at Guitar Center, but I worked at Guitar Center. From working there, that's when I quit to start teaching because people would come in looking for guitar teachers, and we didn't have anyone. There wasn't anyone that taught there, and there was a couple people who you'd have their card. You'd give a customer the card of somebody, you'd say, like, call this guy for guitar lessons. And they would always come back and say, like, you got anybody else? And I'm like, well, that's what I used to do, when I lived in Texas. And I taught as an apprentice to my teacher as part of my guitar lessons, him teaching me. He made it to where, like, if I had to teach, I had to really understand something to teach. Because there's a big difference in just being able to play something and being able to explain it to someone and they understand it.
Right.
So I had a couple of people, Johnny Resnick came into the store. Guitar Center in Hollywood, everybody would come into the store. Like, there was a lot of, every day, it was like just one after another. Somebody you'd see on TV, somebody from a band. Like, one time, the story I like to tell is I helped David Carradine with guitar strings. He was looking for a certain kind of guitar string, so I helped him find it.
Wow.
And he wasn't wearing any shoes. He was barefoot.
Because it's Hollywood.
Weird, random Hollywood story right there. So Johnny wanted me to teach him. And that's what got me to first start. He was asking for guitar teachers. And I'm like, well, what do you need a guitar teacher for? You already have, hit songs on the radio. Right. And you already know how to play. And he's like, oh, I want to study some more open tunings. And I was like, well, I could teach you that. And I was like, I'll start teaching him. But we never actually connected. That did sort of like that spark of, hey, I could teach here.
Right.
So I quit Guitar Center and then I started teaching.
Okay, gotcha. And then you came across Guy Ritchie, who happened at the time to be married to the most successful female artist ever. And how did that come about?
Well, Guy's assistant, he called Guitar Center saying, do you recommend any guitar teachers? And I had just quit. And they said, yeah, here's a guy. So then Guy's assistant, Nathan, called me, and then he just said, hey, I need to get guitar lessons for my boss. So then I started teaching Guy, and he was dating Madonna at the time.
Okay.
It was before she had Rocco, and right before the music album came out.
Okay.
So that's how how all that transpired. Is I was going over to her house, teaching her then boyfriend, and then she and I became friends that way.
Right.
It was a really cool relationship. And then I started teaching her, and then she asked me to come play on David Letterman with her. Where she
debuted Don't Tell Me, right?
Yeah, I guess that's the debut. I mean, that was right when that song came out, and we did an acoustic version of that. From there on, she started asking me to come. She hadn't toured in 7 years, and so she asked me to come on tour and play guitar for her. Keeps asking me back. almost 20 years later.
Yeah, that's insane. That is insane. And from that, you ended up writing with her. You did Easy Ride, Hey You, It's So Cool. Easy Ride is a huge fan favorite to this day.
Yeah, Easy Ride is pretty much the main one. The other ones are just kind of like bonus things. But what's interesting about that album, the whole American Life album, is it came out right when the U.S. was going to war overseas, in the Middle East. And if you were to say anything bad, if you were to give your opinion about saying, no, we shouldn't do this is a bad idea, that was it. That could ruin your career. Some people it did.
Right.
And I remember when Madonna's manager showed me the video for American Life, and in the video you have actors playing George Bush and Saddam Hussein. At the end of the video, they kiss each other. And so I was saying, okay, that's definitely going to ruffle some feathers. And right after that, George Bush announced that we're going to go to war, and and that all of that was going to start. So at the time, that album was controversial, and a lot of people didn't like that she was speaking out against the war.
Right.
But now, especially more recently, that album is so relevant with the themes and the lyrics and the production that Mirwais did, a producer who did that album, is just groundbreaking, and no one has touched that.
No.
There's other things that she's done and people have been influenced by, but that is a production that is not easy to copy.
Yeah, and
so if I was to write something with her that would make an album and last forever, essentially, I'm glad that it's that one.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's one of my favorite albums of hers. And as you said, it is still relevant today in the production, in the songwriting, in the melodies. Everything about that album is incredible. It is to me, a completely underrated album for as amazing as it is.
Thank you.
And so, touring with Madonna, you have done Live 8, you've done Live Earth, you did the Super Bowl, which was the first Super Bowl in history where the halftime show got more viewers than the game itself, which is nuts. How did that feel? I mean, you've done these gigantic shows all over the world on the world's biggest stages. What is that like for you?
We rehearse so much that you don't have time to be nervous. You're very comfortable with what you're doing. There's the excitement and the anticipation, but I wouldn't call it being nervous. But I was thinking when we did like the Super Bowl, if you put all three of those together just alone, but you think about like everybody that you've ever met at that time is probably seeing this.
Yeah.
That's what I thought about with the Super Bowl, because my part is still minimal, but it's almost like I just had the best seat in the house.
Right.
But I was thinking, anybody that I went to school with, like maybe somebody I was in middle school with or elementary school that moved off, and I may never see this person again, but they could be watching this.
Right.
That's just crazy.
And now that you point that out, it's also weird that anybody that you haven't met yet that you eventually will has probably seen that performance.
Yeah, there's that too. That's a crazy thing to think about right there. That's part of the fun. That's part of the fun.
Yeah, I mean, you could meet somebody tomorrow that you've never met before, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I saw the Madonna Super Bowl performance. I saw the Live Earth." I mean, that's kind of crazy.
I never really think about it while it's happening. It's just something you kind of look back on.
Right. So
I'm too close to it while it's happening.
Absolutely. Yeah, I can definitely see that. Her new song with Maluma and produced by Mirwais is I'm loving it. I love that it's like fresh and exciting, and in my opinion, there's nothing else like it on the radio, and I love that about that song.
Yeah, I agree with you. I like it a lot too, and I think once summer gets here, it'll be like one of those songs that you hear everywhere you go.
Yeah, and that 1, 2, cha cha cha, like there's so many hooks in that song. There's so many catchy parts. It's incredible.
Yes, it is. I had never heard of Maluma before.
Really?
And yeah, no, I haven't. But he obviously is very, very talented and massive in his market of music. Right.
I am excited for this new Madonna era, and I am excited for you to be a part of it.
Yeah, I hope so. Me too.
And
I don't have any info yet, but I know that she's coming out with a new album, so I hope she does something to promote it.
Absolutely. Yeah, me too. So, one other thing on Madonna, it's been very interesting from my point of view to watch how musical she actually is. And what I mean by that is, you've been with her for almost 20 years, and there's always a live band there. The band is always part of the show. It is very musical. You know what I'm saying? And I love that about her. I love that about the show. The performances that she does. I love that there's live musicians playing as opposed to just a track playing and somebody dancing on stage.
That's great. I'm glad that you like that. I'm very happy for you. No, just keep it. That's great. I'm really happy for you.
Okay.
Yeah, there's always something for everybody at one of her shows. And there's always something cutting edge and new to discover that you wind up seeing people copy years after.
Absolutely. And I met you originally at the Drowned World Tour. It's been awesome to see the evolution of you as an artist with Madonna. Do you know what I mean?
Thanks. That's another thing that you don't really notice it while it's happening. You just kind of look back on it all.
Right.
Evolution, that's for sure.
Yeah, and even like your fashion, your hair, I remember with Drowned World, you had your hair was kind of like a little bit shorter on the sides and like longer up top. Like, you had the Rock God shirt. I've loved watching.
Thank you. Yeah, that's all. She has an amazing hair and makeup team. I did have long hair, and she said, my hair was long, and she's like, you need a haircut. But... And I wasn't very happy about that. But, if you're going to do that, it's great to have one of the top people who does that cut your hair.
Yeah.
So it's like, I kind of like this now, too.
Right.
And then I always get bored with, I'll grow it out, I'll cut it off.
Yeah.
And then I'll miss it, and I'll grow it out again. And I'm always indecisive about that. And on the reinvention tour, they wanted to put a wig mohawk on me. And I was like, no way. So I just shaved my head so they couldn't do that.
That is awesome and rebellious. I love it. So you have also played with Prong and Adam Lambert. I mean, you've had a huge number, and this is besides your solo work, which we're going to get into in a moment. Well, actually, let's get into your solo work. So your first album.
Yeah, let's get into that.
How did your first album fit into all of this?
Well, when I moved to LA, I just wanted to work as a guitar player. I wanted to either start a band or join a band. There was no rules or limits. It would have been great to bring my band out from Texas. I think we could have, if we were seen by the right person at the right time, we could have been one of the biggest bands of that time, and still now, if it worked out that way. We definitely had the talent and the skills. We just didn't have someone to guide us.
Right.
If we would have had a producer, we were just getting into that when we broke up. Sterling Winfield worked with us on our last album. And just as that was happening is when we split up. And we were going to do our what would have been our next album at Dimebag Darrell's house in his studio. And Sterling was going to do it. But then that never happened. Of course, that's something looking back I wish I had now. But also, I look at it as I moved to LA right when I was supposed to.
Absolutely.
If I would have left a week earlier or a week later, things wouldn't have worked out the way they have.
Exactly.
So that's kind of one of those things that taps you on the shoulder and says that everything's meant to happen as it happens, or everything happens for a reason, however you want to look at it. But in between, I would play with Madonna, and then when I was done with that, I would play with Prong, and I would go back and forth. But at the end of the day, I wanted to make my own band, and I was doing these shows. This thing was called Club Makeup, and it was first Saturday of every month. And it'd be a different theme. It's at Everett Theater, and it was a different theme. One month would be Prince, one month would be David Bowie, one Kiss, whatever. And all the different singers are from these different theater shows, like musicals. So these singers were amazing. That's how I was like, you guys must know some other singers who are amazing. I want to start a band, and who's the best singer you know? And so that's how I got introduced to Adam Lambert. And then we started a band, and then he went on American Idol.
Right.
And when he went on American Idol, I knew that, this, he's going to wind up become a superstar.
Right.
He did.
Right.
And so I was kind of like, I had Prong for my heavy, and I was really I wanted to do acoustic stuff. So I made an acoustic album, and that's my first album, The Deepest Dark.
Right.
So then I just released that on CD Baby. And then after Adam was done with American Idol, he was like, well, now I want you to play guitar for me. So then he did a tour, and then I went on tour with him. And then he started with Queen. So there was all this stuff that was going on then, but a lot that no one could really talk about at the time, because he had Queen starting up. I had the Super Bowl starting up.
Right.
And, neither of us could talk about either, but that was kind of it. That's the last time we played together. And then I put out my second album. It's called Pain, Love, and Destiny. I used Kickstarter for that.
Yeah, I love that album.
Thank you. Raised $65,000 for that, which, that was just another step. After that, for my next album, I wanted to make a heavy album. Well, I had all these different songs I wrote, and I met the producer Fleming Rasmussen. Fleming is known for doing Metallica's early albums. He did Ride the Lightning, Master of Puppets, and Injustice for All. those are the albums those are my favorite albums growing up. Those are the albums that changed my life.
Right.
And so I gave him all my songs, and he said, I like all this. He goes, but this heavy stuff is what you're really good at, and this is what I want to record of you. So then I made plans, and I went to Copenhagen. That's where Metallica did Ride the Lightning and Master of Puppets, and we did an album there. When I was done with it, I just, as another random chain of coincidences, I played it for Brian Slagle at Metal Blade Records, and I was like, what do I do with this? Do I put out another album by myself? Do you know anybody who should I send this to? And he said, well, I'll take it. And I thought, well, I'm not heavy enough for Metal Blade. And he said, no. And actually, as crazy as it is, he's who signed the Goo Goo Dolls.
Wow.
And there's another weird connection.
Yeah.
Years later.
Right.
So I signed to Metal Blade, and from there on, I did the next album is called Inverted Grasp of Balance, and Richard Christie played drums. Richard Christie's on the Howard Stern show. He does all the funny phone calls.
Right.
And Billy Sheehan played bass on it. Billy Sheehan's one of the best bass players ever.
Absolutely.
So
he's worked with Steve Vai and David Lee Roth.
Yes. Yeah, that's who that is. And so that album was a more like modern, technical kind of album. That was an album where I had someone say, here's what you need to be doing. Other than me just kind of making the music that I wanted to make. Someone saying, you need to show off the guitar playing some more and think about live when you're playing, having some more like up-tempo stuff. So that's how that came about. Then it was time to make another album, and I told Brian, I said, I have enough material where I could do an acoustic album and a heavy album. I said, what if I did two albums? Has anyone ever put out two completely different albums on the same day? And can I do that? And he said, sure. If that's what you want to do, sure.
Which is amazing.
That came out at the end of August. The heavy album is called Between the Space, and the acoustic album is called Better or Worse.
Yes, I love both of those. I've loved all of your work. And what was, when you released those two albums, what did you find? Because, I was following it as they were released, and I found people's favorites were all over the place. You know what I'm saying? Like it seemed like everybody enjoyed all of the songs that you had put out with those two albums. What do you think the response was like with that? Because that is kind of like new, a new frontier in that respect.
It's always different. What I've noticed is it seems like if I put out an album, people go back to the album before. Because when I put out these albums, all of a sudden people were talking about Inverted Grasp of Balance. And when I put out Inverted Grasp of Balance, I felt like that didn't get a lot of attention, but then people were going back going, oh, The Power of Three, that's the album I did with Fleming that got me signed to Metal Blade. They're like, oh, The Power of Three, that's one of my favorite Metal Blade albums in their whole, catalog of music. So, I don't know, people may not listen to these two new albums until I do the next album. Just seems like that's how it goes. But yeah, another thing, so after these albums came out, I went out on tour opening for Sebastian Bach. So then you see the response of what works live. And then also, I'm at the point where you can only do your best song off of each album in your set list, because that's all the time you have to do.
Right.
And then you are in the territory of you can just perform a dynamite set list.
Right. Yeah, I saw you, it was just a few months ago when you were in Philly, and the crowd was insane. You were putting on a show. You know what I mean? It was a show.
Yeah, you have to do that. You can't just stand there and play. You want to make it entertaining, and it's got to be fun.
Absolutely.
That's what I want it to be fun, and I'll come out kind of hard and heavy, maybe some of the more technical stuff to get your attention, and then break it down where it'll just be me on the acoustic. So that's why I throw in the acoustic stuff, and that just sort of sucks the dynamic in where everybody's, you can hear a pin drop. And then you bring it back up, and then I'll play, that's, where you're ending the set with the songs that are your most popular songs.
Right.
And there you go.
Yeah, and it was awesome to watch. It was the whole show was like a cohesive experience. You know what I mean? It wasn't just like you made it a whole cohesive piece, and I loved that. And the crowd loved it.
It was a lot of fun. And then I went on tour with Tony McAlpine earlier this year, and Tony is known as one of the top guitar shredders. You know, he came out when guitar shredding was like, you know, the hottest thing in the late 80s. And he's had a very versatile career, like where he's, you know, just keeps putting out great music and, you know, just some of the most exceptional guitar playing and piano playing that you can hear. His band, I was saying, like, his band is some of the best musicians I've ever heard in my life.
Right.
And so that changed, you know, doing both of those tours. I look at me for touring on my own right now. It's all about making mistakes, kind of, or, you know, failure. Like, what are you going to learn from your failure?
Right.
And just to make yourself better. Sebastian, I learned what I need to be doing and what I don't need to be doing. Sebastian helped me a lot with vocals and singing, and with Tony, just being around that guy just completely changed my guitar playing, you know, 100%. I became such a better guitar player from being on tour with Tony and being around him. Like, I'd wake up, I'd look at my bunk, because we were on the same bus. I look at the bunk, and he's already been practicing.
Right.
Like, he's already played all his songs before I even wake up. And I was like, yeah, I got to practice more.
And you've won a ton of awards. You were up for Male Singer-Songwriter at the Los Angeles Music Awards. You were honored by the Hollywood Fame Awards with the Career Achievement Award for a guitarist, which is incredible. I mean, you have the validation from other artists, which I think is important.
That's another thing, you know, that you can't. I never pay attention to any of that.
Right.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, I do it for you.
It's like I'm just now hearing about it now. Like, what? When is this?
Right.
Oh, it was in 2011.
Right.
Last year, Metal Injection, the top metal website, got nominated for, you know, one of the top guitar players in 2018. And my friend Alex Skolnick from Testament was also in there, and we were just joking around with each other. And he said, he's like, all right, you know, we're friends and all. He goes, but this is war. We're laughing. And I said, all right, don't hurt me too bad.
Right.
And he goes, oh, it's going to hurt me more than it's going to hurt you. So it's good. I'm honored to be in the category with some of the best guitar players out there. I don't even deserve to be in that list, I feel like.
Yes, you do. Your work is incredible.
Such amazing guitar players.
Well, and actually,
and I don't want to think like that. I just want to. I like to keep trying to get to be better. I like to always feel like that was nothing. I could do so much better. That's a great way to keep improving. Yeah,
absolutely. So, and they actually made a Monte Pittman signature guitar, right?
Yes, with Jarrell guitars. I met them at NAMM. They were making killer guitars, and he offered me. He said, "Hey, I want to make a signature guitar for somebody. I want to make you a signature guitar." And I say where I come from, then you don't say no to that.
Right.
And that's what I played at the Super Bowl.
How awesome is that to have a signature guitar, the Monte Pittman signature guitar?
Yeah, I mean, since then I switched. I don't know what. I think the guitar company kind of stopped.
Right.
And then I switched, and I went over to ESP guitars, which I don't have a signature guitar, but I felt like that was another step in improving my guitar playing. Like when I first got an ESP, I didn't want to put it down. I felt like I was 13 again getting my first guitar.
Wow.
And that made me a better guitar player because I was playing more.
And you have a number of customs too, don't you?
That's usually the way they make it. You know, it's and that's one of my favorite things about ESP is they have different models of guitar, which is perfect for anything that I'm going to be doing. Like I used to be with Gibson. Well, me and Madonna were both with Gibson in the 2000s until they dropped us. But
wait, they dropped you and Madonna?
Yeah. But then it's just like Les Pauls or SGs, Vs. But for ESP, you've got an Eclipse, which is that Les Paul type of guitar.
Right.
You've got a V, you've got a Strat, you've got a Tele. So I've got all the different options of guitars.
That's awesome.
So I have that variety that I love.
Yeah. Well, I just adore watching you play. I love your music. And you're doing lessons now, right? That like people can actually, no matter where they are in the world, they can contact through your website and set up a lesson. Is that right?
Right. Well, you don't actually have to even go through the website. You can just email me at lessons@montepittman.com.
Awesome.
And that's and so I have several options. You can have 30-minute lessons. You have an hour-long lesson. And I even have 7-minute fingers, like 7-minute abs.
Yeah.
So just quick lessons. So I have every price point. You're going to get more from one lesson with me than you're going to get out of a book or from watching somebody do it on YouTube, because we're going to have the interaction with each other. And I've been teaching since I was 15, and which I've been teaching for 28 years. And I have been doing this professionally on the biggest stages and also the smallest stages. So I've seen every side of it, which is kind of a rare thing. And so I've just sort of broken it down to where here's what you really need. Here's what works.
Yeah.
And I could be anywhere in the world. You could be anywhere in the world. We do the lessons over Skype or FaceTime.
That is awesome.
I just filmed a bunch of videos for this company called Jam Play, where
you can play with the pros, right?
Well, you subscribe. It's a subscription-based service, and there's there's always new guitar players coming in and doing lessons. So you may have 3 different guitar players teaching, this one scale or system of chords. So you get everybody's sort of input and take, because I think the more ways that you see how other people see it kind of helps you understand it.
Yeah, that's really cool, and I love that.
But you want to go to my lesson.
Absolutely. And I mean, you're 100% right. And let's be honest, though, Madonna's going to pick the best person in the world as her teacher, the best person that would teach guitar as her teacher. And that's you. I mean, she's going to go with the best, and she did. And other people now have the option to also learn from the best, one-on-one.
Thank you for that. I mean, there's several great teachers out there, but I mean, I do have something different to bring to the table, and I try to just break it down as simple as possible and make it to where not only are you learning how to play guitar, but you also know how to keep expanding what you know. I teach you in a way where you keep learning. It doesn't end, where you see that there's no limits, no boundaries to learning that vocabulary, that language. Make that world a smaller place. And you can apply it to other instruments, too. You may learn it on guitar, but you'll understand it where you can play that on piano or clarinet. Because it's all the same stuff. It's all universal.
I love that. I have 2 more questions for you. One, you have played, pop music, dance music, Latin music, metal music, acoustic. You've played everything, everywhere in the world. What drives you to be able to do that? There's some people that are like, I can only do this. I can only do, flamenco music. I can only do pop. I can only do rock. What is it in you, musically or personally or professionally, that you are able to, do so well in every genre that you've done?
Well, music, again, going back to the last thing we talked about, music is all the same. You only have 12 notes. Out of those, you're only going to have 7 that you use, and you're not even going to use all of those maybe. It's just the sound and what you put into it that gives it a different style of music. Garth Brooks, Cannibal Corpse, AC/DC, and Miles Davis all played out of the same scale, but it's all the same notes, but they're played in a different way or with a different sound, different vibe, if you will, and that's what gives it a different kind of music.
I love that. What can we expect from you next? You have a new single coming out, right?
Yeah, well, I did a video for the song Changing of the Guard off the Between the Space album.
Yes.
And so we're doing the final edits of that, and there's no deadline, so I'm just kind of living with it, and when it feel like it's ready to send out there, we'll see when Metal Blade has an opening in their schedule when they can release it.
Awesome.
And Madonna's new album is coming out soon, and I hope she does something to promote it and let everybody know she has an album out.
So do I. So you're always working on music. And I know I'm thinking way ahead now, and I've played the last 2 to death. When approximately can we expect new music from you?
What I'm going to do next is when, I'm going to take my time writing because there's no rush in me getting out new music now.
Absolutely.
I'm at that point where I can't even play one song off of each album in my set.
Right.
So I want the next album to be so good to where I would just play that entire new album all the way through.
Wow. That's awesome.
That's my goal. I mean, that's not really what we're going to land on, and we'll always change it up.
Yeah.
But I'm writing, and I've got the blueprint of the album. I always have that, and I'm just kind of taking my time with it. And when it's, it'll be my goal is maybe next summer to start recording it.
Okay.
And then when that's done, I want to kind of forget about it a little bit, and then come back and listen to it. And if I say like, oh yeah, this is perfect, then I'll give it to Metal Blade and just not have a deadline or not have to rush putting it out. Let's let them say this is when we think the best time is for it to come out.
That's awesome.
They have so many big releases and so many big bands.
Yeah, and you're one of them.
And I want to book a tour promoting that album, and then I want to book a tour when the album comes out. So I want to, this next album, whenever it is, I want to have a tour saying, okay, everybody, here's the date, got a new album coming out, and then do another tour saying, all right, everybody, got a new album just came out, here's the first track. So everybody knows about this one.
I love it. I cannot wait. I'm already getting excited about it.
Yeah, I'm treating the next album like, okay, this is the last album I'll ever make, and this has got to be the best thing I ever do.
Right.
Of course, I'll always keep doing that. That's just my frame of mind. It's not like, okay, I don't think of it like, okay, I'm going to do this album and then I'll do another one. So who cares? Now I want each song to just be the best thing I've ever done on every level. And then I'll move on and say, okay, now I'll do another song. And it's also, again, talking about like what you have in your, what's doing a set list, that changes how you approach writing. It's like, okay, I know I have this that I'm doing in this song, and I have this in this song. What do I need in my set list? And what do people like?
Right.
People seem to be like going back to, people like this, people like that. People seem to like the stuff that's more on the technical side.
Right.
Like all of my most popular songs, either, like if you look on Spotify, there's the song Arisen in Broad Daylight. It's on Inverted Grasp of Balance. The song has 3 parts to the chorus. So it's almost like the chorus is its own song. I get fascinated with song structures and stuff like that. So there's all of these parts to that song, from a song structure sense, that I've never done before. I've never seen that in another song either. And Before the Morning Sun, which was the song that kind of started it all for me in that level, and it starts with this 2-hand, 4-finger tapping that, like something you would see Stanley Jordan or Joe Satriani doing back in the day, but in a heavier sense.
Right.
And then when the song kicks in, like you've got a part that's in 7/8 time, which is, instead of counting at 1, 2, 3, 4, you're counting at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So something like that. And on the new album, the track that really went over well live is a song called Evident.
Yes.
And the same thing, like all the chords are very, it's not your normal chords you would hear in heavy music.
Right.
And it's written out of a different scale. It's from the Magic chord.
Oh, okay.
And it's a sound experiment where you put 2 different pianos on opposite sides of a room, and you play the notes, certain notes at half steps, and then certain notes at whole steps apart. And when you stand in the middle of them both, it gives a stereo effect. So when you're moving to the right or the left, that's how the sound changes.
Oh, that's incredible.
So I took those notes and just made that as the scale, and that's how I wrote the riff.
I love it. And where can we find you?
Metal Blade Records, metalblade.com. I have my website, montepittman.com. I'm on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Just my name, Monte Pittman, MontePittman.
Awesome. Okay, so that was my interview with Monte Pittman. He's so awesome. I love him. He's been a great friend forever now. So from there, then we started talking about pop culture. So then I just figured, you know what? Here's the pop culture section of our show. So that's why the format's a little bit different. So here you go. It's all kinds of hot clips and all kinds of the good you love from us here at Pop Culture Weekly, this time with Monte Pittman. What do you think of horror right now? I'm loving it, by the way. I know I just asked you a question and then answered it with my own answer, but...
I don't know. I don't really watch any of the new movies. So I don't ever watch anything. I'm always teaching.
How about Halloween?
I thought Halloween was okay.
Really?
I didn't dislike it. I love it because it's Halloween. It wasn't the greatest thing.
I loved it, Monty. Oh my! I loved it so much. I thought it was so good.
I thought it was really good. Some of it I don't understand. I'm a little confused about. But
yeah.
I'll tell you something I'm really excited to see is the new Joker movie.
Yes, that looks so good.
I watched that trailer over and over again, and that I think that looks really interesting.
Yeah,
that looks like that's got to be a great movie. Also, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood looks amazing.
Yeah, Quentin Tarantino.
I thought the Child's Play trailer was good. You know, I would go see that. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of movies that look really interesting that I would go see.
Yeah, and I heard, so you and I, for the audience, you and I are both huge Friday the 13th fans, and I heard that the lawsuit is wrapping up and they may be finding a, compromise.
That would be great. That'd be great. And did you hear about that LeBron James wants to do it?
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that.
I don't know. I have some ideas that you and I have talked about in private what they could do with that movie franchise.
Yeah.
That would be just phenomenal, but I don't, make movies.
Right.
If I did, I could make the best Friday the 13th. I could make the best horror movie ever made.
Right.
And I will stand by that. But I don't do that. I play guitar.
Right.
There's some things that they could do with that movie that's not, I just like what are they going to do?
Yeah.
With Jason.
Yeah, I don't know. I really hope that they can do not a reboot, but I like the idea of what Jason Blum did with Halloween, where they kind of rebooted Halloween, but also continued.
I'm tired of the reboots.
Right.
I'm tired of the reboots and the remakes. Like, why not just, instead of remaking all these movies, why don't you just use that idea and come up with another movie?
Yes, absolutely.
It's like if you need the name of that classic movie to sell your movie, then the movie alone should do it.
Right. Yeah.
That's what I think.
Yeah, and we had a full episode dedicated to that a few episodes ago, and we kind of came up with the same thing. There's some nostalgia in it, but on the other hand, some of it's just lazy.
See, I like with the Child's Play. I never even saw the old Child's Play movies.
You've never seen them?
No, I never actually saw them. I was just interested because Mark Hamill does the voice of Chucky. So I was like, oh, okay, well, I'll check out the trailer. And I like how they have it to where you work buddy on the phone, and how they use that sort of thing. Kind of like on the Halloween movie with Busta Rhymes, where they're texting each other.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I didn't hate the Friday the 13th remake. I mean, the reboot.
Yeah.
It wasn't great, but it was fun.
Yeah.
I think they kind of take the whole weed stuff too far.
Yeah.
Where that's the sort of point of the movie.
Yeah. Yeah. And
they should go back to how they really came up with those, or they originally came up with those movies. Which, was different. They didn't make a movie like Halloween. The reason they made those movies is because Halloween was so popular. They said, okay, well, let's do something like this.
Yeah.
But they did what they were good at. Like, okay, well, let's take some kids and let's put them in the woods, secluded, and make them do some things they shouldn't be doing, and then it ends up bad. Right.
Yeah, and that's why I think
they didn't make a movie just like Halloween and copy that.
Yeah, they took.
I mean, yeah, you they're familiar, but they're different.
Right. Yeah, I mean, and they did what they were good at with a story that they're both, serial killers that stalk people. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not that original of an idea. I mean, there's so many ways that you could go with that idea that are completely different from each other.
Yeah, with Halloween, like, I don't understand what happened at the end. I'm kind of confused by that.
With the girl?
So I guess that's what happened to Michael? Like, I don't.
Yeah, I'm not really sure. I'm not sure we're supposed to know though yet, right?
But if we don't know yet, it's like, is there going to be another? That just doesn't make any sense.
There is. There's going to be another one.
How did he get out? How did he survive from that?
I don't know.
And you can't say, oh, that was really somebody else.
Right.
You can't do that again.
Yeah, because then you're getting into that. You got
to start coming up with your own ideas.
Exactly, and you're getting into that convoluted area that the sequels did originally that you have wiped from canon. You know what I mean?
Yeah. See, I thought the original Halloween 2, I've always liked that one.
Yes. Yeah, and then
the Rob Zombie ones, I hated the Rob Zombie Halloween. Horrible, absolutely horrible. Where you're one of the guys from Slipknot is a killer. Right. Like that. No. Like, should you be scared of him, or should you ask him for his autograph? Like, that was not scary at all. That was just goofy.
Yeah.
But then I liked the second one. I thought that was really cool. But then some of my friends were like, "Oh, I hated the second one. I love the first one." So I don't know. I'm kind of opposite.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
As if the Rob Zombie movies weren't Halloween, I think they'd be awesome. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so he should have used that and made its own movie.
Right.
Like a new movie.
Exactly. Yeah, as Michael, the Michael part of the Michael Myers franchise, I don't know. It's like they're
okay. So here's another debate I like having with my friends.
Mm-hmm.
Did you watch The Dirt?
The Dirt? No.
The Motley Crue movie. Oh, okay. Oh, no. What about Bohemian Rhapsody?
I loved Bohemian Rhapsody. But you know what I'm going to love more? I already know it. Have you seen the trailer for Rocket Man?
No, I just saw there was a Rocket Man. I saw a sign for it.
Oh my God, the trailer is it's fantastical. So it's kind of like Bohemian Rhapsody in that vein of it's a musical biopic. However, it's more fantastical. So for instance, when Elton is playing the piano, he's playing Rocket Man or something, the audience starts lifting up into the air, the crowd watching him. You know what I mean? So it's more like a fantastical version, and I love that. It looks so good. I can't wait to see that.
I'll check that out. I mean, how many of these movies are there going to be?
I don't know.
There's going to be a movie with everybody.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't think I was going to like The Dirt, the Motley Crue movie.
Yeah.
But I really liked it. Well, I say I quite liked it a lot.
So
I quite liked it a bit, is what I told a friend. It's like I like how they did it. I mean, what are you going to do? So I liked that it was kind of it was like a fun 80s movie,
right?
Which I thought was the right take on it. The acting wasn't. They didn't take themselves so seriously. They're not going to get nominated for an Oscar. I kind of feel like that takes away from it.
Yeah.
Being so serious and profound, and they just kind of focus on the good times. Of course, they're going to throw in those dark times. Which that's where some people I know, they're like, you're talking about their whole career, and that's what you're telling everybody of your legacy is that you overdosed or, you did a bunch of heroin. Yeah,
we talked about that on the show, and actually they did a cover of Like a Virgin for the soundtrack or something.
Yeah, I've had people want to interview me on that, and I've just avoided it. And I told Madonna about that. I was like, hey, did you hear that? I said, well, I saw that Motley Crue is Like a Virgin. And she's like, really? I'm like, yeah. I said, have you heard it? She said, no, I haven't even heard it yet. And then I heard it up to the chorus. I made it up to the chorus. And then I was like, oh, my God. I got to do, what if she hears that and thinks that I think that that's cool? So I got to somehow do damage control with that in case she hears it and goes, oh. So that's what what you think is cool with my music.
Right.
So, but I love Motley Crue, and this movie made me kind of go back and listen to all their stuff, up to Dr. Feelgood, of course, again, and that's what they focused on. Their cover of Like a Virgin, I love Motley Crue, but that's not one of my. I can't believe they. It's not what I expected them to do. I actually was kind of excited to hear it. I thought they were going to do something, well, kind of like on the Confessions tour, we did like a rock version.
Yeah.
Well, I thought they would take those stabs, in the chords, like the dun, 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 and I thought they would have done it in a lower key. And then that could have been really cool.
Right.
But I don't know. The new Motley Crue songs that they did, it doesn't even sound like it's Motley Crue. It sounds like it's like, I'm sure maybe it's them, but it doesn't sound like it doesn't sound like their character.
Right.
Maybe it is, and it's just the way it's recorded or something. But I wasn't. But it doesn't matter because I love their old stuff.
Yeah, and
that movie made me fall in love with them again and remember why I liked them, and that's what's important.
Yeah, absolutely.
When the timeline starts moving around, I was kind of like, wait, what's happening? And then they lost me on that one.
Right. I am waiting for the NSYNC biopic.
Oh, good luck with that. Wish you the best of that.
I'm a huge.
Why?
Why?
Why would you be waiting for that?
I'm a huge pop fan.
I know. I'm just teasing you.
No, I know you are, but I want to know all the dirt that happened during NSYNC.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
God.
I want to know.
Let me know. Let me know.
I know you are waited.
Let me know how that works out for you.
You are waited with bated breath for that too. So.
I would rather get an old TV and just turn it on static and watch that. I'd rather see a documentary on static.
You don't want to know how the rest of NSYNC reacted when Justin was like, "I'm going to go solo."
I don't.
Oh my God.
I would watch an NSYNC movie if Kevin Antunes was in it.
Yes.
Kevin's my bro. I'd watch that.
Yes. Yeah, I wonder who would.
I bet they had some crazy. I bet that's a crazy story. If you're a fan of theirs, and so.
Who would play Mr. Antunes? Do you think?
Denzel Washington.
That is incredible. So I still call him Mr. Antunes because I met him when I was.
That's his name, Mr. Antunes.
Well, that's true. I just feel weird because people will be like, "Oh,
that's what I call him."
Do you really?
He makes me call him. that. No, I'm just kidding.
Yes, it's I just because that's how I was introduced to him from when I was in high school or whatever, and so now I can't not see him as Mr. Antunes. It's weird, but
I like that. I hope he doesn't hear this. He'll make me call him that.
So, Monte Pittman.
Wait. Episode 9.
Oh.
The Rise of Skywalker.
My God, I cannot wait for this.
Yeah, same here.
So you pointed out. I'm sorry.
Did you watch the panel at Star Wars Celebration?
I did.
Man, when Ian McDermott comes out, and you just watch the trailer for the first time, and you're like, whoa, oh, wow, oh, whoa, wow, cool, oh my goodness, wait, what? And then you're like, wait, what? Oh, and there's the title?
Right.
And then there's Ian McDermott, like,
yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that was crazy. When I heard that laugh, I was like, what? No way. You know what I mean? And then when he came out, I was like, oh my God.
So, I mean, has he been out there this whole time? They better not be playing a trick on it. Like, oh, no, they're watching it on TV.
Right.
On a screen.
Yeah.
One little scene,
Yeah, or it was, what do you call it? The hologram thing. What's it called?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like,
yeah.
You better... And if he survived and has been behind all of this or something, wow.
That's epic.
I had a great theory, like, what if he could, because, he did have the clone army. What if he cloned Vader, and then after the Death Star, his body went into Vader's clone, and that's Snoke.
Wow, that would be crazy.
If you look at Snoke, and you look at the head wound, it's just like Anakin at the end of Return of the Jedi.
Right.
But
Yeah.
then where is he going to come from? How does he get in there? Anyway, that doesn't necessarily make sense either.
Well, I thought. Well,
A lot of it doesn't make sense any way you slice it, but.
Well, what's interesting, what was awesome was that when that came out, of course, we texted each other, and I didn't catch something when I watched it the first 50 times that you pointed out to me, which was I thought that the Death Star I thought that it was like in that one scene with Rey. I thought that it was the Death Star with like clouds covering it, and I was really confused. I was like, what? I don't understand. How is the Death Star like back together? Is this like a vision or something? And then you pointed out to me and you sent me a screenshot that it was actually the wreckage of the Death Star in the water.
Yeah, that's fallen onto the planet.
Yes, which is like, holy crap, I did not see that when I watched it until you pointed out.
That happens with the dialogue of no one has ever really gone, and then you hear Palpatine's laugh.
Exactly.
So did he somehow was in a piece of the wreckage?
Right.
And that's how he's still out there. He survived or something like.
Yeah, it's like mind blowing, and I cannot wait to December. And that's if I don't die, because I'm a huge Marvel fan, and I have my tickets for Endgame, which comes out this week, and it'll have come out a week earlier when you guys at home listen. But I have been dying. 11 years of my life, for this completion, and then I don't know how I'm going to make it till December. Like.
Well, and then the Mandalorian looks amazing too.
Yes, in November. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am day one getting Disney Plus. It's $7 a month for all the Star Wars, all the Pixar, all the MCU, Marvel, like $7 a month or $60 for a year. It's a no-brainer just for the Star Wars stuff alone. And then you have all these original shows that are coming in the Star Wars universe that I'm so excited about. So that will, that's a good point. That'll get me through November. Well,
and then you're going to have the next trilogy with the guys from Game of Thrones.
Yes. And they're talking about Rian Johnson or whatever. Is it Rian or Ryan?
I think it's Ruin.
Ruin?
That's a joke.
Oh.
No, that's not very nice.
I just got it. Oh, my God. Do you know how to pronounce his name, though?
No, it's Rian Johnson.
It is Ryan. Okay. And then
I actually am okay with The Last Jedi now.
Yes, I remember when it first came out.
I didn't sleep when I first saw it.
Yeah, you were very upset.
Yeah. Well, because when you've just been waiting for, what you could make the best movie anyone has ever made, but instead you decide to make the worst movie.
Right. Yes, but
now I'm actually okay with it. I get it. And it's, I get the whole art.
Exactly. And that's why I'm like I love J.J. Abrams, and I really think that whether this was intentional or not, or he's just cleaning it up, whatever it is, I have faith that he has made a final part of this, last trilogy, but also the 9-part, series that will be satisfying. And, The Last Jedi is a step to that conclusion. I'm hoping that it will make more sense in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah. I hate it. Now I get it. There's still things that I'm like, I feel like I'm just telling myself it's okay. Really, it's kind of, but I like all the Luke stuff. I think the Yoda scene is one of my favorite Star Wars scenes, actually.
Really?
The Snoke stuff is great. Yeah, especially lately. I was just talking about when the Dome Cathedral was burning down. I said this kind of makes me look at the whole the Yoda Luke scene differently.
Yeah, and what did
you? How it's all burning down.
Yeah,
and the whole thing. I was having a conversation with someone. Is like everybody's freaking out about. A sacred piece of history and architecture. One, but everybody's freaking out that this cathedral, this church, is burning down. But kind of like, well, I guess my point is like when Yoda says, did you even read those books?
Yeah.
Well, no, but like, you're worried about that.
Right.
You don't even pay attention to what.
Exactly.
Everybody gets worried about the cathedral burning down. You know what the message is that they teach inside here.
Right.
Is it just an image?
So, what do you think of Solo?
I thought Solo was a great Star Wars movie.
So did I.
Yeah. I didn't even think, well, he's not Harrison Ford.
Right. Yeah, I don't get all the hate for it. I love Solo. I thought it was a great, fun adventure.
People didn't hate that. People were upset about The Last Jedi. No one wants to admit that or tell you that, but that's what it was.
So you think it was just backlash, essentially?
Also, they could have done some different things. You know, like you could have. They missed some points with Solo too. Like at the very end, when you have it, I don't know why they can't just give you what you want. Why is that so against the rules? Like just give like that part of Solo at the very end where she puts in the ring. That should have been like, you know, you should have had a good 20 or 30 more minutes after that where she goes and meets that character and just gives like Rogue One, like the end of Rogue One. Great, but like, can we just have like 10 more minutes of that? Like the end of Revenge of the Sith. We got to go do everything with Revenge of the Sith, and then you only get to see Vader the last 5 minutes. Like, just give everybody what they want.
Right.
I hope for episode 9, it's not like here's one scene with the Knights of Ren. Like, hopefully they just like, okay, here's what everybody wants.
Yeah.
And you know another thing? They won't do this, but you know what would be awesome for episode 9 is if they put Kelly Marie Tron in some sort of, you know, Leia's in the bikini.
Yeah.
And Return of the Jedi. If they did something like that to her, where you had, because you know so many Star Wars fans are so mean to her.
Yep.
But she's a very attractive woman.
Yeah.
And if you, that's funny how you see her like at red carpets and all that, and she looks hot.
Yeah.
But if they did some sort of similar parallel scene, since they take all the movies and make a parallel. Force Awakens is like A New Hope. The Last Jedi is like, I don't know. This one it seemed like it was going to be like Return of the Jedi and Revenge of the Sith. That ending kind of thing.
Yeah.
So if you had that kind of thing, that would be really clever. Because then all the fans would be like, oh, well, okay, well, yeah, maybe she's not so bad.
Exactly, yeah.
I don't think they would do this, though.
Do you think that Harrison Ford will be at all in this film?
Well, I don't want to give away the ending.
Do you know the ending?
No, I don't.
Oh.
But how awesome would it be that at the end, the very end, you find out that he didn't really kill Han, that he stabbed him, but then he kept him alive with the Force, and he knows how to cheat death or whatever.
That would be awesome.
But then that would suck because everybody else is gone. So.
So they just
I'm interested.
saved him.
So you know how I am with music, obviously. You know that Rey's music is very similar to Bill from Beauty and the Beast, and Kylo Ren's music is very similar to the Beast's music, and it is Disney.
I never knew that.
That is my theory about how the movie will end.
Interesting.
There's even a what is it? There's like a bell or something. When you first see Rey at the beginning of The Force Awakens, is it a doll or a bell or a flower? There's something that Belle has in Beauty and the Beast.
Huh.
Well, yeah, if you listen to their themes, they are very, very similar musically.
All right, I am going to have to look into this now.
And lately I've been studying John Williams' music a lot.
Yeah.
And each character has a different interval.
Explain that.
That's, okay. Let's say we're in the key of C, but C has no sharps or flats. It's just like the alphabet. If you're on a piano, it's all the white keys on a piano. Anything you can play together is going to sound musical, like it could go together. If I go from C to D, that would be a second. And if I went from C to E, that would be a third. If I went from C to F, it'd be a fourth. C to G is a fifth. And that means, C going to the next note, C would be my second note. That's what that means. That's the interval, the distance from the root to another note.
Okay.
So different characters go to a different note.
Interesting.
And the theme for Star Wars, the main theme goes up. It goes a fifth.
Huh.
It goes from B flat to F. That's the first two notes.
I'm going to have to pay attention to this now.
Yeah.
Well, that puts a whole nother spin on things. And then as a super duper.
Oh, and by the way, in the Friday the 13th score is all augmented chords.
Really?
Yeah, the sort of the devil music type of media that chord, it used to get fined from the church of playing it. And that's where the term devil music came from. And it's a diminished chord where you would flat your fifth note. So if I was going from C to G, that's my fifth note, I would have G flat. And which is also the song Black Sabbath from Black Sabbath. It's just that chord. And if that's one way that you can make that sort of, you have major and minor chords, you have dominant chords, but you also have diminished chords where you flat the fifth note, and you have augmented chords where you raise the fifth note. You sharp that note, is what it's called.
Okay.
And all of the music from Friday the 13th is just augmented chords.
Interesting.
And then Halloween, it's the same thing. You're playing a fifth. That's the theme song, or the theme music. It's a note, and you play the fifth of it, and then it goes to the sharp five. You raise that note, but then you move that entire piece down one note. It keeps moving down.
Huh.
It's like if you had a key to a song, but then that key kept going down in pitch.
Right. That's
like if
awesome.
If you had a song and you're in C, and then you move the song to B, and then you move the song to B flat, and then you move the song to A, and then you move the song to A flat.
That's really interesting. And then where do you think, okay, so you've been a super obsessed Star Wars fan forever. Where do you want to see the franchise go after the episode 9?
Well, I thought that Kathleen Kennedy somewhat confirmed that the trilogy with the guys from Game of Thrones is going to be the Knights of the Old Republic.
Okay.
So you have Darth Revan, Darth Bane, Darth Malgus, which would take place 1,000 years, or I don't know if it's 1,000 years, up to 1,000 years before before the Phantom Menace. So I guess that could end with Yoda being born or something like that. I don't know. You would see the first Sith and the first Jedi. And
from also what I've read, they're also going to have Rian Johnson do his own trilogy, which...
Yeah, so who knows what that'll be. Maybe that'll be in the future, or maybe they'll interact with each other. I don't know.
Yeah. So is that where you want to see it go? Would you be excited about a Knights of the Old Republic trilogy?
Yeah, I think you could just have complete new territory doing that. It seems to be the wise decision. Whatever you do in a Star Wars movie, you need to be able to have action figures for it.
Absolutely.
Kids need to be able to play with those toys.
Yeah.
That was a big part of it. The Last Jedi, you don't really have that. You only had a couple of people.
Right.
That was one of the things they missed out on.
Yeah, and I need my Funko Pops.
They turned it into a Verizon commercial at the beginning and all that. But, I mean, some of that was kind of okay. I can let that go, but it's, I don't know. I also wonder, did Leia die when she went to space?
I know. I was wondering that myself. I would like to just see the original the original trilogy one more time. Like, see Harrison Ford and Luke and Leia, all together one more time.
Yeah, but you never really see that in the old movies. Everybody is only together and all the characters are with each other at one time, really.
Right. Yeah.
So then you would be, it kind of takes away from what the story would be. I mean, Luke doing the force projection, Luke doing the force projection is amazing. And then having astral projection put into a Star Wars movie and explained that way is beyond genius.
Right.
And then having the whole Kundalini awakening put into a Star Wars movie for The Force Awakens, and that explained is also genius. So if they do something like this, some sort of metaphysical quality or property that they put into a Star Wars movie and explain how that works that way in Episode 9, I think that would be really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm excited.
Do you know what I'm talking about with all these things?
I do. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I do. And I'm excited to see how it all wraps up. You know what I mean? And it's got to be hard for J.J. Abrams, like, to, you know, a lot of people like us are waiting, you know what I mean? And hoping that this is an amazing trilogy, or the amazing end to this trilogy, and a 9-part saga, you know? So
I hope it's a happy ending. Because it's Disney. It shouldn't be like, you know, everything else ends. Well, the end of Revenge of the Sith and Return of the Jedi, those are endings, and it's sad, and it is storytelling, so you got to have an end of the story.
Yeah. And I'm really looking forward to the Galaxy's Edge at Disney World.
Yeah.
That is going to be insane.
Yeah, it's going to be an insane line waiting to get into it.
Yeah, it's like...
I have my hopes up. I don't know if I'd ever get to go see it. You just be in line all day for one thing.
Right. Yeah, I'm hoping that, and it's probably not going to happen, but I'm hoping that by, you know, after a few months, maybe it'll die down some. But if you look at Harry Potter, the Wizarding World at Universal Studios, the lines are still long for all the Harry Potter rides. So, you know, maybe...
These Star Wars rides look so epic. I don't see why they would ever go down.
Yeah. You know, that's the only thing I'm worried about, too, is going there and then, I've spent 6 hours in line, you know, but it's probably worth it. Like, can you imagine people like us actually piloting? You know, you can actually either pilot or, what do you call it? The Millennium Falcon. What's it called? Side shoot or whatever they call it. That's a dream come true.
Yeah, it is.
You know, would I wait in a line for 4 hours to pilot the Millennium Falcon? I think I freaking would.
Or you could just force project yourself there to do it.
That is very true. Hopefully they'll come up with it by then.
Cool.
All right,
Kyle, thanks for having me on.
Thank you, brother.
Great chatting with you.
As always, I am looking forward to future projects from you. And please come on the show when your next album comes out, or whenever you want to promote whatever you got going on.
Okay, thanks so much, man. Say hi to your buddy Ron Burgundy for me too.
I absolutely will.
Right here on iHeart Radio.
Exactly, only on iHeart Radio. All right, that was my interview with Monte Pittman and our discussion. Isn't he incredible? Monte is freaking awesome. He's a musical genius. He is a huge pop culture fan. As you can tell from his passion, he's so passionate about Star Wars and Halloween and Friday the 13th. I just love him so much. He's such a great friend. All right, next up, I'm talking to two very special gentlemen about the 30th anniversary of Dead Poets Society. It was filmed right where we record this podcast in Delaware. It was filmed at a town called Middletown, and it was done at the Everett Theater, which is a historical theater in Middletown, as well as St. Andrews, which is a private school there. So enjoy this interview. All right, so I have Rob Stout and Peter Hoops from the Everett Theater. Welcome to Pop Culture Weekly, guys.
Thank you for letting us come.
Yeah, thanks, Kyle. It's good to be here.
Thank you. So it is the 30th anniversary of Dead Poets Society, that classic movie with Robin Williams. So that's what we're discussing today. And you are with the Everett Theater in Middletown, Delaware. Many people don't know that much about the Everett Theater and the history of that. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, the Everett Theater is a historic vaudeville and movie theater that was built originally in the late 1800s. And in 1921, it had burned down and was rebuilt in 1922 and is now owned and run by the nonprofit organization, the Everett Inc. As an organization, we do plays and musicals, have outside performers such as comedians, magicians, and musicians perform on stage and show family-friendly movies the first weekend of each month.
Okay. And then the building is actually considered historic, right?
Yes.
And how was that designated? Is it because of its age? Is it because of its importance to the state and the community? How was that designated?
It's the age.
Okay,
Yes.
Gotcha. All right. And then so you also have an art center?
We do, and it's the Gibby Perry Art Center, so we have a full gallery there.
Okay.
We also have art classes. We also do summer camps, art camps at the Gibby, and we also do theater camps at the Everett.
Oh, that's awesome. So what is so special about the movie Dead Poets Society, and why is the Everett doing a fundraiser for its 30th anniversary?
So Dead Poets, in addition to having been one of the only films to be completely shot in Delaware, really rings true for a lot of people because of how it speaks to themes of youth and freedom and sort of finding your own way. And I was lucky enough to actually have been a student at St. Andrews when Peter Weir's production team came down and was scoping out lots of schools and colleges looking for just the right look for his Welton Academy. And I remember seeing him on campus walking around with his scouts. And later we learned that, yes, he's decided that he would like to shoot here, and he was going to make some, start negotiations with the board of trustees for the school. So when we learned that Peter Weir was going to be directing a movie, and then, it's going to start Robin Williams, and it's going to be shot all in Delaware and Newcastle and Middletown, just as somebody who is from the area, it just became an incredibly special event and is still sort of revered as one of the great films and the great events of Delaware. And St. Andrews still retains a little bit of sort of fame and hidden fame from, Dead Poets having been shot there. That sort of sets up sort of why the movie was important for Delaware. And we are trying to use the fact that the movie was shot at St. Andrews, but also at the Everett as an opportunity to raise awareness of the Everett and to raise funds, since we are a nonprofit, for the Everett Theater, and to sort of set up a launch of our capital campaign.
And so I will get right back to the gala, but I'm curious, do you know how Peter Weir came about St. Andrews and Delaware?
I don't know directly, other than that he worked with location scouts looking at a number of schools on the East Coast. I was told that he was looking at places like Swarthmore College and even going up into New England. And he was literally driving up. He had just been at a school in Virginia and going through Maryland, and we were on his list as a place that he should look at. And I know that there are location scouts sort of familiar with this area, and that somehow we ended up on his list. And from what I am told, and I believe the sources are reliable, that as soon as he drove in the main driveway of the school and saw it, he said, "I think we found it." Which is
it's an absolutely beautiful school and beautiful property. I mean, it's like a castle, it's incredible. So, how did they go? So it was another thing with the location scout found the Everett Theater. Is that how that happened as well?
My understanding is, yes, as they were looking at the surrounding area, where could they shoot? Where could they set up studios? Where could they set up, places to shoot the sets that they needed to set up, that the Everett presented itself, and it just fit exactly with what they were looking for.
And at that time, what was the Everett like? Was it running as a theater, or was it kind of?
Yep, the Everett was a theater, and it's neat to hear, back in 1988, 1989, Middletown was not the size that it is today.
Right.
I mean, it was a sleepy little town. And so the Everett Theater was really the Friday night, Saturday night, gig. That's where people went and, for entertainment and watched the movies. And so what's neat is walking in that theater today is exactly like walking in the theater when the movie was filmed in 1988.
That's awesome.
And in fact, Robin Williams, the scenes that are shot with him are in. He's sitting in row G,
104,
seat 104, and so after Robin Williams had passed away, we had that seat reupholstered with black velvet.
Wow.
And so when you look out from the stage, the theater is a sea of red velvet with one black red velvet seat. And that's, a way to pay tribute to him.
That's incredible. So let's see. Okay. Obviously, this part will be edited out. The 30th anniversary gala, that is going to be at the Everett Theater, correct?
Yes.
And what else can you tell me about the actual gala itself?
So the gala is going to be Saturday, April 27th.
Okay.
And it starts at 5 p.m., and it's going to encompass all three buildings. So the Everett Theater has the Gibby, which is the art gallery, and we also have the Annex, which is, so all three buildings, including the theater. So it'll be set up for our guests to kind of roam throughout. There'll be a silent auction. We have been fortunate that Ethan Hawke has actually signed some items for us. One's a poster that he also took liberties of writing some of the quotes or some of his lines from the movie.
So that's a one of a kind.
Oh, yeah. I think it makes it more valuable.
Absolutely.
And then also we are going to be auctioning off one of the prints that Robin Williams signed for the 25th anniversary. So,
okay.
And both of those are beautifully framed. They're very large prints, so that'll be nice. The event is for Saturday night is $45 a person for the gala.
Okay.
That includes the reception, open bar, and the movie, and then dessert on the back end of that, and then the live auction.
Awesome. I love dessert.
So do I. And on Sunday, we're doing a matinee, which is $10 a ticket.
Okay.
And you can log on to everetttheater.com, and you'll click on the icon that says Dead Poets, and you can purchase your tickets online.
Okay. And tell me about the Capitol campaign, and then I want to get back into Dead Poets for a moment. But I know that this is very important for the theater itself, and give me a little bit about that.
So the theater is coming up on 100 years old. So any building that's 100 years old definitely needs renovations, needs work. You need to take care of it.
That's what my grandma says about herself, by the way.
This past winter, our boiler system, which heats the theater, it finally went out on us, and so we had to replace that. So when you're dealing with a structure of that age, there's constantly repairs needing to be done. The building needs to be repointed. We want to redo the restrooms, enlarge the lobby area, and fix the some of the dressing rooms in the back of the stage that don't even have heat. So it makes it very difficult on the actors in the wintertime. So the Capitol campaign is to really bring this beautiful building up to a standard that we're going to leave it better than we found it.
Right.
And it'll last for another 100 years.
Awesome. And why did mine just disappear? Let's see. Mine just cuts off.
You want to read 5? You want to answer 5, Peter?
Sure.
Sometimes analog is good.
Yeah, like now. All right. I'm going to ask a couple of other questions, and then I'm going to get to this, just if that's cool.
Yeah.
All right. So, cool. So regarding Dead Poets Society itself, how important has that movie been to the theater, to the Everett?
Yeah, I would say that Dead Poets has been a very major source of the Everett to stay in existence through fundraising and the notoriety that the theater has due to the movie. It's amazing how often you see people just coming down Main Street and pull off in front of the theater and get out of their car and take pictures of it.
Mm-hmm.
And they're taking pictures of it because of Dead Poets Society.
Right.
So I think it's played a major role in the theater's continued existence.
Okay. And Peter, so you actually were in the film. Tell me a little bit about that.
I was a senior that year, and I remember Peter Weir coming and speaking to the whole school, talking about the idea of the movie and sort of what the themes were and the general sense of it. And he said they were going to need a lot of students for background actors, for other students in the sort of the central classroom, and that they were going to be having open casting sessions for all the boys at St. Andrews, which was difficult for all the girls to hear because it was an all-boys school.
Right.
And so they said, well, they were going to look for other opportunities for the girls as maybe townsfolk or something like that. One of the other interesting things that they also mentioned at the same time was that because back then the schools would have been mostly white students or almost all white students, that they actually weren't going to be looking for students of color to fill any of the roles. And Peter apologized for that. And he said, I'm sorry, this is just, we have to be sort of true to the time.
Historically,
and so that was what they were going to be looking for. But they were sort of made a point of seeing how else they could involve other students in the school. So a lot of my friends went in and they had you walk into a room and with the casting agent and you read 3 lines and they took a picture of you and then moved on. And some of my friends got to be in the classroom scene. A couple of my friends had other lines, speaking lines in the play or in the movie rather. And it was just really exciting to sort of see this is what Hollywood, this is what movie making is like. And then to be behind the scenes for somebody like me who was interested in the technical side, seeing how they set up the cameras and how they align the actors. And then being an extra is basically 7 hours of sitting around and then going and doing one shot for half an hour and then you're done for the day. But it was a lot of fun. And what they would do was they would actually spend a lot of the time filming actually during our vacations. So during the November Thanksgiving break and during Christmas break, when all the students were gone, then they could sort of use the campus any way they wanted. The odd thing was that then they would truck in all of these extras to set up for the school scene. So they didn't want to disrupt what was happening, the actual school that was happening, because we didn't stop school for their filming. They just said, we're going to do a little bit while you're here. We're going to do most of it over vacations, and then we're going to film the rest of it, in Newcastle and in Middletown and around the area.
So sorry to interrupt. No. So they were actually filming while you were in class or whatever?
A couple of scenes. They would set up like the famous scene where they're outside with kicking the soccer ball, reading lines of poetry. So we were in session for that. Or a couple of the scenes sort of out in the fields or away from school. They obviously couldn't film literally in the classrooms or literally in our building. So most of that happened over break. But where they could make it, they needed to make their days. So where they could take advantage of shooting while we were there, they did. And they accommodated us. The school was very gracious, and one of the other sort of unknown facts is that the school didn't stipulate up front how much money they would charge. They simply said, use it, do the best you can, and come back to us for what you think it was worth.
Wow.
And the production company and Peter Weir sort of sat down and came up with a number that they thought, and that was the deal. So it was very much sort of a handshake type operation, and it just came out really nicely.
That's incredible. Any other things that you think as a film buff yourself that the Pop Culture Weekly audience would enjoy production-wise?
I think that what they did to sort of recreate this fictional place in Delaware and Middletown was pretty amazing, and using Newcastle and using Middletown and using St. Andrews just shows how clever they were using the space that they had. And even reaching beyond St. Andrews and Dead Poets, if I could speak for the Everett for a second, as somebody who's trying to sort of revive and sort of reinvigorate the film program there, it's a unique theater, and we're in a unique place in Delaware, certainly, as a place where you can come and see not only the family-friendly films, but some of the other independents and things that sort of don't get the kind of billing that they should at a lot of the chain theaters. So we're looking to sort of expand film appreciation, lovers of film, as well as other film buffs in the area, and to sort of try to make the most of it.
Wow, that's really incredible. And now I'm looking at photos here from this is Robin Williams standing on desks at St. Andrews.
Well, yeah, and some of that they actually built a classroom that looks like our classrooms, but is actually in their studio.
Oh,
because
wow.
They would need full control.
Yeah.
But they modeled all that, and when they built the dorm rooms, they modeled them on our dorm rooms, but that's all was done in a studio,
right,
so that they could control their schedule. But yeah, it's really it was creepy because people will walk around school, visitors will come around school and say, "Was this the classroom where Robin Williams was shooting? Was this his dorm room?" And we have to say, "No, it didn't really actually exist.
Yeah.
It was just modeled after that."
That's awesome.
So they did a really good job of replicating a lot of our architecture.
And with the do you remember when the Everett scenes were filmed year-wise, because they had to pump fake snow in, right?
And they did.
It
yes. Was tiny little bits of plastic at that time. I think it's probably better for the environment now, but back then it was basically shredded plastic that they would blow up into the air and then would float down. And they did it both at St. Andrews and they did it at the Everett. I don't know when they shot the actual Everett scenes. I think somewhere in the November, December period, but I don't think we didn't have real snow. The only scene that was real snow was the one where Ethan Hawke's character sort of runs down to the dock, and has his moment down there. And that was actually not the shoot they planned. It started to snow one morning, and they completely scrapped the shoot they planned and said, we've got to do this like in the morning while it's snowing now. And in about an hour, they were like ready to go to do that, to take advantage of the natural weather event.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right. Well, is there anything else you guys would like to share?
Just we'd love to see people come out for the gala. Again, it's everetttheater.com. You can purchase your tickets for the April 27th gala or the April 28th movie matinee.
Awesome. Peter and Rob, I really appreciate you coming and talking to us, and I'm looking forward to the gala, and thank you for preserving a piece of Delaware and film history.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kyle.
All right, guys. So that is episode 18 of Pop Culture Weekly. I know it's a different format from what we normally do, but I thought you might love this interview with Monty and the interview with Rob and Peter regarding the 30th anniversary of Dead Poets Society, which is such a classic movie. So, as always, thank you for listening. We're growing every single week, and it's from you subscribing and sharing. I'm on Twitter personally and Instagram at KMacMusic and Facebook at Real Kyle McMahon. The show is at Pop Culture Pod CA on Twitter and Pop Culture Weekly on Facebook. So link up with me. Let's talk pop culture. We may even feature you on the show. Love you guys. See you next week.
You're listening to Pop Culture Weekly with Kyle McMahon, presented by 92.9 Tom FM, an iHeart radio station.
Well, that was a different type of show.